this folder is the genius deal that made Lionel Messi turn down more than the entire GDP of a small country. This deal made Messi reject a $1.5 billion offer from Saudi Arabia, but he didn't turn it down for more money. It was to play for one of the worst American soccer teams. But what the headlines and the media did not tell you was why he chose to do this or what this has to do with you. Because beneath the billion-dollar headlines was a deal that could make him even more than the $1.5 billion that he was offered. And today, I'm going to reveal to you exactly what this type of deal is so that you can use it to make yourself rich. Now, to understand this deal, we need to go back to American soccer in the summer of 2022. The MLS was a league where some of the best European players got to hang up their cleats, and the MLS wanted to change that. A 10-year, $2.5 billion deal with Apple TV. All MLS games would finally be on one platform around the world. But this wasn't a typical broadcast deal. The MLS had committed to one platform in an all-or-nothing deal. The MLS didn't have any traditional TV partners or any cable rights, and nobody else in soccer had ever done this before. In fact, it was the opposite of the broadcasting deals that European leagues had used to build their global soccer empires. The English Premier League, the Spanish La Liga, and the Champions League grew by selling their rights across dozens of broadcasters in multiple countries. Because with more broadcasters, they would be on TV screens in nearly every single country. And this was how they created their entire soccer empire. But the deal only made sense if enough people paid for Apple TV in order to justify the $2.5 billion bet. And this is why the MLS needed the world's attention to make this deal with Apple completely worth it. But Apple wasn't the only one placing bets on the MLS. Adidas had just renewed an $830 million MLS kit deal for the next 6 years. Adidas was now the league's apparel partner until the end of the decade, and they'd get a percentage of every jersey and merchandise sold. But they'd also need a name big enough to sell millions of jerseys. So now the MLS, Inter Miami, Apple, and Adidas needed someone big enough to make people want to watch American soccer. A player with the kind of magnetic pull that would have the people paying a monthly subscription just to watch him play. The kind of player who would have soccer fans from around the world buying his jersey. They needed Lionel Messi. Messi's contract was set to expire in 2023, and he would be free to sign with any club without a transfer fee. He was about to be a free agent for the second time in his career. But in Miami, one man had been watching this unfold for 3 years. Jorge Mas was the managing owner of the MLS soccer team, Inter Miami. But here's where things get really interesting. Mas bought Inter Miami with David Beckham, the same David Beckham who had originally brought global attention to the MLS in 2012. And by 2021, Mas had already started preparing a deal to make sure Inter Miami signed Lionel Messi. He started by cleaning up the cap table, which is the ownership structure of the club. He was buying out 2 minority partners who were causing problems to make room for Messi. He had inserted a clause into Inter Miami's jersey agreement that doubled the payout if the club signed a player with 5 or more Ballon d'Or awards. Messi already had 8 Ballon d'Or awards at that time. And he even arranged private school placements in Miami for Messi's children. All of this 2 years before any conversations had taken place or Messi even being a free agent. Finally, in June 2023, Messi became a free agent. The entire soccer world was glued to their phones, waiting to see where he would go next. But what Jorge Mas didn't know was that he was about to start competing against an entire country to sign Messi. At the same time Jorge Mas was planning his move, the Saudi Pro League was emerging as a global soccer powerhouse. In January 2023, Saudi club Al Nassr signed Cristiano Ronaldo for a reported $200 million per year deal. And now, 2 other Saudi clubs wanted Messi in the league as well. The first offer was from Al Hilal for $400 million per year, and the second was from Al Ittihad for $1.5 billion in total. These are all state-owned clubs backed by the Saudi government. And the Saudi government's funds reportedly have more than $900 billion at their disposal. They wanted to use Messi and Ronaldo to clean up their global image and make a World Cup bid. So this is what Jorge Mas was up against, and nobody saw Inter Miami as a real option. That's why the public narrative was that signing Messi was only a two-horse race. It was either Saudi Arabia or retirement. The Saudi money was so extreme that any other offer did not stand a chance. But Jorge Mas had one of the only things that could make Messi turn down a $1.5 billion deal. He could offer Messi equity. Messi had spent 20 years as the most valuable employee in soccer, but he never had the opportunity at an ownership stake. He was 35, in the last chapter of his playing days, and now he wanted to find something that lasted beyond his career on the field. This is why Messi wasn't choosing between cities or billion-dollar salaries. He was choosing between being an employee or being an owner. This is why the only right choice for Messi was being an Inter Miami. So on July 15th, 2023, Messi officially signs with Inter Miami. The public numbers were a base salary of $12 million, $20 million in total compensation, and this was the highest paid MLS salary in history. The press ran with a guaranteed figure of $20 million against Saudi Arabia's $1.5 billion. The day before Messi played his first game, Apple TV was already reporting over 6,000 new subscribers per day in the lead up to the game. But on the day of his first game, they reported over 100,000 new subscribers. This was a 16x growth for Apple TV. But what did this do for Inter Miami? In just 3 years, Inter Miami's valuation more than doubled to $1.4 billion. They had added over $800 million in value and proved that the Messi effect was real. This is a $1 billion valuation for a soccer club that didn't even exist 8 years ago. But the media missed the secret deal structure that Jorge Mas had engineered to beat Saudi Arabia's $1.5 billion offer. It is the same type of deal Silicon Valley has been using for decades, but it also has the potential to make you rich. So let me actually show you my deal DNA that I used to analyze every single deal. This is the same framework I've used to build $2 billion businesses, sell 5 companies, and advise billionaires at Goldman Sachs. And it has 6 parts that will help us figure out what was really behind this secret deal that could shape the future of sports forever and make you rich. Now we've already covered why this deal happened with Messi becoming a free agent. We've talked about how the MLS and Apple and Adidas all needed Messi to make their deals work. And we know that Saudi Arabia wanted to use Messi and Ronaldo to clean up their global image and make a World Cup bid. But we still need to talk about how this deal was negotiated. And it all comes down to the third part of the deal DNA, price and terms. This is where the real financial genius of Lionel Messi is shown. The price is what most headlines talk about. It is the only number that most people care about. But the terms are the hidden layers of any deal that most people don't see. And in this deal, we have 3 important layers. The first layer is the salary layer, and Messi was making about $20 million. Now, this number may seem small compared to the $1.5 billion offer made by Saudi Arabia. And it may even feel like Messi was walking into retirement in Miami, but he was not. This was just a piece of the entire deal. The second layer is the revenue share layer. Now, what is revenue share? Revenue share is where Messi, in this case, would get a piece of other business sales. The first business that he was getting a piece of sales on was Apple. For every Apple TV subscription that was bought, Messi got a piece of that because Apple TV became the single sole distributor of the MLS sports across the world. And that was not all. The second brand that Messi got a piece of was Adidas. Messi negotiated a piece of all the merchandise sales and MLS jersey sales from Adidas. When you combine the revenue share and the salary layers itself, that was a deal that had almost never been done before for one specific reason, because every other deal like this from a revenue share perspective was done as an external endorsement. Many athletes got separate deals of sponsorships from different companies, but this was the first time that these 2 companies actually built a deal inside of a player's contract, which shows how much they wanted Messi to make this deal work. But that was not all. The third part was the equity. And this was something that had never been done before. The greatest of players like Magic Johnson and Michael Jordan never got a chance to own a piece of the team that they played for, that they won with. But Messi now got a chance to both play with the team and earn equity with the team. He got a chance to play for Inter Miami and also earn a future stake in that team. When you combine all 3 layers of salary, of a revenue share on an ongoing basis and ownership in the team, this makes it one of the greatest deals ever done in the history of sports. But there's still the question of where Jorge Mas was actually going to get the money to pull this deal off. And this is where part 4 of the deal DNA comes in, the capital stack. The capital stack is exactly how you make the deal work. A capital stack is just a money map for ownership and operations. It generally has 3 layers, the debt layer, the mezzanine layer, and the equity layer. The debt in this case was financed by JP Morgan, close to $650 million, entirely going towards funding the build and the operations of the new stadium. The second layer, which is the mezzanine layer, was provided by private equity, in this case, Ares Capital, that did 2 tranches. The first one was to buy out these rogue shareholders, and the second to provide for some growth equity after Messi came into play. And the third is the equity layer. This is the ownership component of the business with the key principals like Jorge Mas and David Beckham, and in this case, also Lionel Messi. It is rumored that Messi is going to have a 10 to 30% stake in Inter Miami in the future. The capital stack of a $1 billion deal is very similar to the capital stack of buying a home. The debt in a $1 billion deal is just like the mortgage in your home. The mezzanine in the middle of a $1 billion deal is like a home equity line of credit on your home. And the rest of it is the owner's equity, is the same as the equity that you own in your home. In fact, you could say that Messi has been renting for his entire career, but now is finally stepped into home ownership. But beyond the capital stack, you have other potential hidden costs. And that is where part 5 of the deal DNA comes in. And that is risk. The entire deal was riding on Messi, and this is why he gave up $1.5 billion in Saudi Arabia to bet on himself and make multiple parts of this deal to come together. Here's what happened. Messi had to bring his brand and his performance to drive attention into Inter Miami. And the more attention that Inter Miami got, it created awareness of the MLS. And the more awareness that the MLS got, it created interest in the sport overall, which drove Apple TV subscriptions. And the growth in the Apple TV subscriptions created excitement to get more merch and jerseys sold by Adidas. Messi had to actually have all these 5 layers work together, which is why he gave up a guaranteed $1.5 billion in Saudi Arabia to get a success fee for all these 5 pieces to work together. There is nobody else that could have pulled off this deal in the entire world. The moment that Messi became a free agent, Jorge Mas was ready with the deal that he had spent years prepping for. Mas had private school placement for Messi's children before he even signed, a Ballon d'Or jersey clause in the founder's contract where if Inter Miami successfully signed a player who had won at least 5 Ballon d'Or awards, the brand sponsorship fee would automatically double. And third, he freed up equity in the club in advance. Heck, in fact, he even printed a pink jersey in 2013 with Messi on the back of it, well before Inter Miami was even a real team. Messi was willing to take a 96% reduction in base salary and a 10-year horizon to build his own ownership. You can do this too to make yourself rich. But in order to do this, you must do these 3 things. Number 1, go get high income skills that can get you a higher base salary. Number 2, be willing to trade skills for performance-based compensation, meaning a lower guaranteed salary, but more bonus if you do well. And number 3, the biggest bet that you can make is betting on yourself, exactly like what Messi did. You deeply discount your comp of today and you trade it for long-term value that you help create. Because ownership in place of a guaranteed salary is the ultimate sign of betting on yourself, which is the same exact trade that Messi is making with the founder's contract to make him even wealthier in the long run. We started this episode with a world that believed that Messi was making a mistake, turning down a $1 billion salary and going to play for one of the worst teams in the MLS. But fast forward 3 years, Messi's bet on himself to create value for the MLS. Apple, Adidas, and Inter Miami was a big risk and a lesson in what choosing ownership over salary really means. Messi's deal proves that the most valuable asset on earth isn't being paid for the work that you do, it's being compensated for the value that you help to create. And when you create this value, becoming rich will be almost guaranteed. Because when you do more than you're paid for, you will get paid for more than you do.